So Apple just launched the iPhone 17 Pro, and this was the visual that they came up with, which was fantastic. Now it's very in line with the previous generations and the previous products. So this is a style that they have been using for quite a while. It's a very popular style and a very inspiring one with a lot of information condensed into one slide. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to recreate this slide as closely as I can to sort of show you how it's done and how you could approach this for your projects. Now I'm going to do this in a structured way. So first of all, I'm going to do a little bit of an analysis on the slide, what is on there and how you could get those elements. Secondly, I'm going to use the grid system, so build up the grid system, put everything in place. And then in third, I'm going to do the finishing touches and really put all the content in place. I'll try to put the timestamps of the different projects or the different topics here, so you can skip through the video to a specific part that you want. So let's start with a little bit of the breakdown here. So what we have is we have this first, the one in the middle, the Pro, that's a box that really jumps out. Then at the top, we have an image with some text overlaying it. We have an image for the vapor chamber with like an image in the background of smoke and text above it, a chip that we can easily recreate. Then we have a 48 megapixel with an image on the top right, floating iPhone, a picture with some people in it. At the bottom here, I'll put it on full screen, we have 2 iPhones and then some numbers. That's nothing crazy. Battery life, photography, or about the lenses information, the Apple Intelligence in a gradient, so we can also create that. And then we have the 3 iPhones and some text. So those elements in those blocks, they basically consist of a few things. Either it's just one only text, so like the Genlock and this here, or it's like an image that we see here in the middle with a little bit of text on top, or it's just like a combination of those with image and text overlapping. So we're going to recreate those. And for that, I'm going to start from a blank slide. So let me just create a blank slide and then keep that other one here, that picture as a reference picture, so we fall back on it. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to recreate that gradient background. So I'm going to format background, gradient fill, and then remove the stops. So we only have 2 stops. And I'm going to set it to dark and a little bit of a lighter dark. I'm going to change linear to radial, and I'm going to change that radial to the center. Now, of course, we want to switch it around so we have that light in the middle. And I'm going to make the dark almost black so we can see that gradient or that radial very clearly. Next, we want to build those frames. So we're going to put some boxes on the screen, rounded rectangles, just like this. And then reduce the roundness a little bit. Hey, real quick, if you never want to make a bad slide ever again in your life, I have a program available that teaches you all the fundamentals you need to know. You'll be able to spot exactly what makes a bad slide and how to turn it into a great slide. So once you master these fundamentals, you can apply it to any industry, any slide, or any communication document that you have. So if you're interested in that, check the link in the description below. Let's get back to the tutorial. So what you can do for your project is you can just start copying those text boxes and then make some larger ones, some smaller ones, and then just expand them until you have a sort of puzzle structure that fits your content. Now, of course, to recreate what we have, I'm going to sort of overlay the other ones a little bit. So I'm going to overlay it with the existing one, and then I'm going to just make it smaller until it fits the boxes nicely. So for that, I'm just holding the Shift key to move it in a straight line. And then I'm holding the Option Shift on a Mac. I think it's Alt Shift on a Windows to drag and create a copy. So for that, I'm just going to do it like this. Make all of them slightly larger, slightly higher, and start to create some copies. If you have the elements on the slide and you are not sure about the position, you can always select multiple. So I'll do it like this and drag this one to the bottom. I'll do it like this and then sort of overlap them a little bit. You can always select the 4, go to Arrange, Align, and then distribute vertically. And this way they are evenly spread and you sort of have that same spacing between. So that's what we want. Then I'm going to do that for the last ones until we have everything figured out. And we repeat it for those iPhones here. And now we have 2 small ones. There we go. I'm just going to realign everything. So everything is nicely aligned and we get about equal spacing between all of the blocks, just like that. And then I'm going to make it nicely aligned. So here we have that grid system. What you can do now is you can just select all of these elements and I'm going to paste them on here. I'm going to remove the outline and get this shape fill. I'm going to make it entirely black. This might be a bit hard to see, so let's see if we can maybe make it gray to see what we're going to fill in. That might be easier. Then I'm going to start adding the pictures to the slide and start recoloring them one by one. Let's start from the middle one, which is going to be the iPhone Pro. So for that we need high quality images. First of all, the high quality image from the iPhone is most important. So for that, I'm going to drag it into place. I got this one from the website and then I removed the background in Canva because the background remover in PowerPoint is pretty bad. So I didn't use that one. And let's also make this center one here. Let's make that black entirely. So we're starting to sort of build up the blocks that we have. Then I'm going to change the font or add a text box above it and call it Pro. Let's use the color picker and use a nice vibrant orange, center it in the middle and make it large. Now what makes this Pro stand out is that they used a very condensed, not really condensed, but like a flattened font. So they use a very wide font for this and a very bold one. I don't think PowerPoint has this as a standard, but I'll show you a version that could work. So I think anybody extra expanded could work, and then just make it large. We don't have to make it cursive, but I'm going to use this one as an example. You can always use custom fonts if you want, or look for the exact one online. I'm just going to use this one as an example. And then let's set it to 110. That will be a good font size. Now you also see in this font, there's like a little gradient on it. So it goes from light on the top left to dark on the bottom right. We're going to replicate that by selecting the text, go to text options, and here we go for gradient fill. Put it on full screen. And then we're going to select two of the orange, so the orange on one side, and then we're going to select a light orange on the other side. Of course, it has to be linear, and then we're going to change that position from left to right, but I think it's also a bit from the top, so I'm going to choose this one, and then play around with the settings until we have the right one. You can always add one in the middle if you want. That makes it a bit easier to play around with the stops, just like this. That might be quite a good result. So it's not exactly the same font, but you get the idea. This is how you would sort of approach this sort of box here. I'm going to position it a bit more to the top and in the middle. There we go. For the next one, let's move to the top left here with a woman. So what I've done is I've looked for a woman that looks a little bit like with the gray hair. And then I'm going to drag in that picture. Now there's two things you can do. Is you can either select the text box, go to fill, and then do picture fill. But what I prefer is just to crop that image to that shape. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller, position it on top. There we go. And then center it in the middle. And I'm going to right click, crop, and then set the crop markers until we meet that border. And now we have to crop it to shape. So go to format picture, crop to shape, and then rounded corners. And then we set the rounded corners until it is hidden. You can delete the box below if you want. And there you have it. Hey, real quick, if you want to save some time while making presentations, I have templates available that do it all for you. It's not the fake templates that you find online. These are solid slide masters that will take your presentations to the next level. So if you want to save some time with drag and drop systems, perfectly customizable brand guides, so you can turn it into any color that you need, all in just a few clicks, well then this template is for you. So if you're interested in that, to save templates with hundreds of design slides already done for you, check the link in the description below. Now you see on the original one, there's like a little bit of text on it. So we're also going to do that. We're going to add our text box and then type in 4x, 5x Fusion Telephoto. So let's do that. 4x, 8x Fusion Telephoto. And for the font, we're going to make it white. And for the font, let's use Avenir Next. Now, you might want to use Helvetica if you have that, but I think a lot of Windows users don't have it. So Avenir Next is a good replacement that looks pretty close. Now there's these numbers that you could use. That's just an extra text box that you can add. That's nothing special. I think with this circle here at the top, that's just a circle and you make the text yellow. I'm not going to do that for this one. I think you get the idea of how it works. I'm going to repeat that for the cloud. So this is an image that I found on FreePic and you can just add it to your slides here. I'm going to do the same thing. Set the crop marks to that picture and then adjust the crop to shape to that rounded rectangle, put it on the clipboard and paste it again. Just going to make sure that it crops nicely and aligns with that bottom one. And I'm going to change that text or copy that text box, make it a bit smaller and put it on top. And here I'm going to call it a vapor chamber. I think that's what it was. And then center it in the middle, make it a bit larger, a few ticks. And then also here you could give it like a gradient fill. It's sort of a bit of a shine through here. You can also make it transparent, but I think I'm just going to go for a gradient fill. So for that, let's use a white on one side and then use a lighter or a bit of a darker gray on the other side. That could sort of give you that same effect. Also for the font, you can use a different font, like a medium one that's a bit more bold. I think we go for this one, demi-bold. That's the one that is closest to what we need. And let's just work our way around. So the next one here is going to be the chip. And for that, we're going to work with a square, give some nice gradient to it, and then add some text on top. So let's make this one dark, go to shapes, hold shift and drag to create a square. And let's give it a gradient fill, a light stop. We're going to make this linear. So we have it from one side and then from top to bottom. That doesn't matter. We're going to shift the stops, create another stop, and then make another one dark again. So we sort of get that. Let's make it a bit darker, put it on full screen. So we sort of get that leveled effect. This dark one, I think we can tune it down just a bit. So we sort of get that round off effect. You could also work with the 3D options like the bevel and emboss, but I think we get to quite a good result here. Let's see again what it looks like. A lot of dark on the bottom and a bit lighter on top. So let's make this one small and we create a darker version here, just like that. I think this comes pretty close. If we start to add some text to it, so I'm going to copy the text box. Let's say it's A19, the chip, and make that black. A bit of a larger font. We can as well make it a bit bigger and position it here. And then it's at Pro below it and make that smaller. And also for this one, we're just going to copy in the logo that we found, make it a bit smaller and put it there. Let's zoom in a little bit and position everything nice next to each other and Pro in the middle. And this is sort of getting there. Here we can see a little bit of a emboss on the text. We're not going to do that. I think that's just a detail. If you want to do it, you can go to text options and then go to the options, 3D, and here do some crazy stuff with the bevel and emboss. I think you could maybe figure it out, but I think that's going to be a bit too much for now. You see sort of like this that you could go, but I think that's going to be a bit too much for this tutorial. So I'm not going to do that. Let's go for the nice picture of the camera with 48 megapixels, Pro Fusion camera system. That's going to be one box. So I'm going to make that larger, sort of look for that text. I think we've already made a good version here. So let's make that black and we say 48 megapixel, make it large, position it on the side. And we want to make that gradient a bit clearer. So we're going to make a darker version, make it linear, and then one white or light. So let's see, the light comes from the left. So we're going to replicate that in our text. So let's do it like this and change it this way. There we go. I think that works. So we put the stops somewhere a bit from the side. So we have clear, white and dark on either side. And then we just copy the text below. And that was Pro Fusion camera system. So Pro Fusion camera system. So 2 lines and camera system with small letters. So let's be consistent, just like this. If you want to make it smaller, or you can always change the line options, say line options, you can make it larger or you can make it smaller. It's not going to go a lot smaller than this one. So if you really want to have it like a lot closer together, you can just copy the lines and do it like this. That also works if you really want that closer together, because I think the line options, we were already on 1, so we can't go much smaller than that. Turn this down a few ticks. And then here we're going to add a picture of the iPhone. So for that, I'm going to take this picture here, I also got from the website, but I'm going to crop it. So we only have the dark version. I'm going to crop it like this, somewhere halfway over the cameras, I think, and then scale it up and put it on the side. Now, since it's quite a dark version, I don't think we need that rounded shapes, but let's do it for good measure. Maybe for the top right side, so that we see it here. If we zoom into that part, we can see that it nicely rounds. Reposition those things now that we have everything in place. Select it all and just center it nicely in the middle, so we have equal space on the left and the right, so everything looks nicely balanced. Next, we're going to go for this ceramic shield here. That was the only picture that I really couldn't find. So what I've done is I've just taken a picture from a phone. So it's just an iPhone on its side, and then I'm going to add a text below it. So if you get the right image, that's how you would do it. Ceramic shield to front, and there we go. Next, I'm going to add the group picture below. I couldn't find the exact one. It doesn't really matter what image you use it with. So you can take any picture that really fits your brand, your style. I generated this one in Gemini, I think. Sort of get the same look and feel of the image, but you can basically use any type of image for this one. So let's do that. Crop to shape, and then we just adjust the angles or the corner roundings like that. We drag in the text and we say, what was it? Center stage front camera, center stage front camera. We adjust the text box and make it one tint or one font size smaller. And then if you want those lines, so this is what they've created to really show how that auto framing, let's say, adjusts. If you want to create that, you can also do it with a square box. So like this, you give it no fill, and in the outline you give a gradient fill. You just change the stops to 2. You make them both yellow, and then one of them you make transparent almost entirely. And you see how this is sort of already working. It might not be perfect yet, but this is how you could do it. And then let's copy that and make one larger, just like this. I think you get the framing idea, the framing concept, what I want to show here. So it shows that you crop in the people that you need. Just that a little bit so everyone's in. And I think that's what they want to emphasize. So the cropping you can do yourself to really adjust that to the perfect one. Then the one here at the bottom, you also need a good picture for that. I couldn't find the exact one, so I took one that resembled it. And for that, we're going to paste it here. Also remove the background in this one. I think I did in PowerPoint, so you can actually see it. You see like the edges aren't very clean. So if you have a high resolution image, you can actually do that way better in, for example, Canva to sort of remove the background. Hey, real quick, if you never want to make a bad slide ever again and know exactly how to turn the bad one into a good slide, an impactful one, then you need to understand slide design fundamentals. You no longer need tutorials. You need to understand what is wrong with your slide and how to fix it. So if you want to fast track your slide design success, check the link in the description below. Let's get back to the tutorial. Then I'm going to make this dark and then let's copy those. And then we have, what was it? 6.9 inch and 6.3 inch. So 6.9 inch. Let's make this a bit smaller. And we just position it next to the phone. And then here we have 6.3 inch. Now, of course, yeah, in my image, both are the same size. In the original one, they have different sizes, but you have to work with the images that you have. So this is how you would do it. It's a paragraph that consists, or a block that consists of background, text, and image without background. That's basically it. Now this one's going to be fun. So the battery life, we can actually create that. So let's make this one dark as well. And then I'm going to work with some shapes. So the rounded rectangle, I'll create it here. So let's give it a nice gray color. Let's use this one, no outline. And we're going to create a copy, make that one smaller, and then round it entirely, just like this. So you see how we have that battery shape now created? And then we're going to group it together and scale it down until it fits that box. Now you can always zoom in and readjust, reposition, however you like it, until it looks realistic and the way you want. I think this looks good. Then I'm going to select the middle box, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to paste it on. And I'm going to, let's make it green first. So I'm going to use that standard green and then scale it down a bit from both sides. So it sort of feels like the battery is full. I think that's what they also used. They have a little bit of an outline. So I'm going to give my inside box, I'm going to give this a dark outline, the same as the black, so that it looks like the background. And then maybe make it 2 points darker. So I think this comes pretty close. Let's make those darker as well. And I think then we have pretty neat result. So this I think comes pretty close to that one that we have with best battery life. Let's copy the text and we call it best battery life. There we go. That was a fun one. It's a bit more of a design. You play around with the elements that you have. So that's pretty cool. This one here, that's pretty much the same as that one on top. So also for that, I just threw it into not Midjourney, but the Gemini, and it created quite a nice version of the image. So I just took a screenshot and I said like, hey, create this image without the elements on it. So I tried to recreate it as close as possible. And I think it did a pretty good job at it. So I'm going to make it as large as the box, crop it to the box, and then I'm going to crop the shape. Now, of course, sometimes you want to work with like the perfect grid system. You can always double check, triple check the alignment, but for this tutorial, I don't think that's too important. You get the idea here. We can get to a pretty close result. And what did it say here? 8 Pro lenses in your pocket. 8 Pro lenses in your pocket. That's pretty cool. Let's make it smaller. Let's maybe do 14 as well, so we don't use too many different fonts. And then same thing here, that's like a little circle with text on top of it if you really want to create that. If you want me to do, let's do 1 and then copy it. That will be good. So 1, we make it dark, so no outline. We make it black, we make it transparent, just like this. Let's zoom in. And then what did it say? So this is an icon and then 13 millimeter. Let's say 13 mm, make it small. And then I think they even did it on 2 lines, so I'm going to do that as well. So 13, second box, millimeter. That's how we get it. That's how we get the same effect. And then we just group everything. And then we just group everything. And you can also make it lighter yellow. I think that will jump out a bit more. And then you just copy it a few times, select all of them, arrange, align, and distribute horizontally. And this is how you could do that. And of course, you want to change the numbers so they fit, but that's how it works. Next, we're going to look at Apple Intelligence, and this might be the toughest one to make, or the toughest one, the one that we can't really get, because if we use that glow effect, it won't work in PowerPoint. Intelligence. So the closest I think we can do is a gradient. That's unfortunate. I really like that glow effect, but PowerPoint doesn't really have it. And I'll just stick to a gradient stop where we have, what does it do? Blue, purple, red, orange. If I do that in a linear way, instead of radial, go for linear. And we go from red and then we put it just like this. That I think is the closest that we can get it in PowerPoint. Unless you want to do it, export it from a different program, but I think that will be a bit too much. Then these ones here, the finishing ones. Let's do that. We're going to drag in the picture of the iPhones, make them smaller, just like this. And then 3 stunning finishes, make the text box smaller. And we say stunning finishes. There we go. And then the last ones, let's do those at the same time. That's going to be our text here. And what did it say? Genlock and ProRes Raw. Genlock, that's an easy one, just a bit smaller, so it nicely fits. And I think we can expand that, or not expand, but increase the gradient or the difference between colors. Light from the other side, and then we make it slightly darker. I think that comes pretty close. And then ProRes Raw. Res, and then we had a Raw, and that Raw was in a lighter font. So I'm going to give this a ultralight and then increase it, and then just drag a box around it with no fill and a very thin line. And that will give us that box from ProRes Raw. I think this looks pretty good. You can also add a gradient to that box if you want. So just go to gradient, remove the stops, make one white and make the other one dark. And then just turn it to the right corner, maybe like this, so that you get that effect. And you can play around with the positioning. If you want more dark, you can do that like this. So that's how I would do this slide. And I think if we now compare it, we come pretty close to the result and we have made a pretty good effect. So let's put it on full screen. And I think if we look at it right now, we have come pretty close to that effect. So it's a pretty cool thing that you can actually achieve in PowerPoint. So you don't need too many fancy tools. You just need high quality images. You need the high quality content, of course, to create a stunning effect from Apple. So I hope you like this design. Thanks a lot for watching. And if you want to see me create more of those slides, or if you have a slide in particular that you want me to redesign, just let me know and I'll try to recreate it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about PowerPoint, make sure to watch this video on screen right now.